Sziasztok! Hi everyone, I'm Sándor. Welcome to another Hungarian lesson. You know, many times people say that Hungarian is written phonetically. What you see in writing is exactly how you pronounce a word. And that is true. On paper. The truth is there are so many sound changes and consonant assimilations that if you don't know about them, you'll sound unnatural no matter what you do. And then it's one thing to be able to hear the difference between our long and short vowels. If you can, that's great, but there are a couple of instances where we write a word with a long vowel but pronounce it as short. I collected a couple of words for you today that do exactly that. Let's kick it! Many times this happens to the long E sound. So we write a word with a long E but pronounce it with a short E. For example, színház. Színház. It means theater. Now, there are some instances where someone would actually pronounce the long E sound. I've heard that happen. But most of the time we pronounce it with a short E. Színház. Színház. The same thing happens to the word actor, which is színész. Színész. Again, sometimes people might actually pronounce the long E sound, but in everyday speech, most of the time we just say színész. Can you hear the difference? Színész. 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 Oh, and if you're wondering why this happens, well, I don't have an answer to that. No languages are perfectly logical, and this is something that just happens. Let's take the word for curious, for example. It's written as kíváncsi with a long E sound, but in everyday speech it's just kíváncsi. Kíváncsi. Short E. Or take the word for newscast, for example. Híradó. Híradó. This is interesting because hír means news, and on its own it's pronounced with a long E sound. And adó in this case means giver, so híradó means news giver. If you watch the evening news, the program will most likely be called híradó. Did you hear that I pronounced it with a short E? Híradó. Híradó. Or let's take the word for promise. Ígéret. Ígéret. Again, it's written with a long E, so it's supposed to sound like ígéret, but everybody says ígéret. Ígéret. Same thing happens to the verb form. Ígérni. Ígérni means to promise, and no matter how you conjugate it, you will always pronounce it with a short E. Or take the word for hippo. Víziló. Víziló. It means water horse. Again, it's written with a long E, so it's supposed to sound like víziló, but everybody says víziló. Can you hear the difference? Víziló. 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 Same thing happens to the sport water polo, which is vízilabda. Vízilabda. Yes, it means water ball. Again, in writing you keep the long E, but in speech you say vízilabda. Vízilabda. And here's a peculiar one. The infinitive bírni, which basically means to bear. It can also mean to like in slang. But there's a phrase which means I can't take it. Nem bírom. Nem bírom. It literally means I can't bear it, but that's how we say I can't take it. And most of the time in that case, we say it with a short E. Nem bírom. Nem bírom. Of course, it's not just the E sound that can behave like this. Sometimes the long U sound also gets shortened in speech. Take the infinitive rúgni, for example. It means to kick. You never pronounce it with a long U, so you don't say rúgni, you say rúgni. No matter how you conjugate it, the long U sound will always be pronounced as a short one, but in writing, you keep the long U. Same thing happens to the word húg. Húg. It means younger sister. Nobody says húg, everybody says húg. A húgom. A húgom. My younger sister. It's not a húgom, it's a húgom. Short vowel. Or take the word ágyú, for example. It means cannon. Nobody says ágyú, everybody says ágyú. Ágyú. We have a proverb. Süket, mint az ágyú. Süket, mint az ágyú. Deaf like the cannon. Here are a couple of other examples with some other vowels. Óvoda. Óvoda. It means kindergarten. Nobody says óvoda with a long O sound. It's always just óvoda. Óvoda. Or take the word firefighter, which is tűzoltó. tűzoltó in Hungarian. Sometimes people actually pronounce the long ü sound like tűzoltó, but most of the time it's just tűzoltó. Tűzoltó. The ü is short. And lastly, the word for bricklayer. Kőműves. Kőműves. Both the ö and the ü sound should be long, and they always are in writing, but in everyday speech both of these vowels get shortened. Kőműves. Kőműves. It's not kőműves, it's kőműves. As a closer, two words where the opposite happens. The vowel is short in writing, but in speech it's long. Posta. Posta. Post office. If we follow the writing, it should be pronounced as posta. Posta, but everybody says posta with a long O sound. Same thing happens to the word postman, which is postás. Postás. Again, in writing, it's postás. Postás. And yeah, sometimes you can hear it, but most of the time it's postás. Postás with a long O. Of course, for the most part, if a vowel is short in writing, you pronounce it that way as well, and the same thing is true for the long vowels as well. I just thought I'd show you some exceptions to the rule. Thank you for studying with me today. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe. And if you feel like supporting the channel even more, my PayPal information is in the description. See you in the next lesson. Sziasztok! A viszontlátásra!